Good evening and welcome to my channel. I have some new fancy technology here, a rather nice bright light which is probably going to shine off my glasses, but what can you do? What can you do? Maybe wear contacts next time, but my eyes are a bit tired. Anyway, I have another short story for you today, and this is back to the short ones. It's a little bit over 1100 words. And as ever, it's inspired by 5 random words which will appear here. And I think this is tale number 109, I believe. This one is called The Baron and the Boy. Perhaps I have bitten off more than I can chew, I think, sitting back on my haunches to stare up at the enormous maple tree which towers above me. It's as thick as a human's torso and reaches the top of the forest canopy. Every day I come to gnaw away at its base, circling the tree to weaken it on all sides. I'm still only 3 inches beneath the bark, and I calculate it will take me at least a couple of months before gravity, or a storm, topples this monster. The other beavers call me the Baron, or the Mad Baron, more often than not. My fellows look at the expansive lodge I've built for myself here at this little inlet of the Elk River deep in the forests of Vancouver Island, and they think the long winters and isolation have driven me crazy. It's almost as long, wide and tall as one of those noisy, smoky conveyances that clatter along the man tracks on the far side of the valley. My lodge is split level, with a secret entrance under the water and a front door on the veranda where I eat my roots and water-softened bark or crack open walnuts. "It's too much for one beaver," they scoff. "Looks like you're planning for a whole mess of kits. Where's Mrs. Baron then?" I don't have the energy after a long day of storm repairs to correct them. The term is Baroness, and I'll know when I meet her, and I'll be ready. As I'm lunching on grasses and sweet maple bark, all laid out on the reverse side of my tail, which I use to keep the worms and bugs out of my food, I'm suddenly disturbed by cries coming from the direction of the river, fearful or angry, shouting, human sounds. I push my meal to one side and scamper through the woods, leaping logs and squeezing through bushes until I emerge on the bank of the stream as it opens to the Elk River. Just before the little estuary, there's a gnarled maple whose roots are partly exposed by fallen away soil. It's there that I've built my home, sprawling out along the bank and into the current. It's not quite so big that passing human vessels would distinguish it from tree root and branch, but it pays to remain vigilant for vandals. I duck under the eaves of my lodge and peer out at the main body of the Elk River. Rounding the corner upstream are a party of humans, their wobbly stick figures balanced on huge flotillas of cut maple logs, chopped through and stripped of branches by their noisy, many-toothed machines. There are 3 of them, 2 men near the middle of their lives, and 1 stripling, scarcely out of kithood. The young one wobbles at the back, as the older ones expertly drive their log piles around the rocks upstream. They'll soon hit the rapids, but I've seen the elder 2 before. They know what they're doing. The younger one I'm not so sure about. "Hard in on the lee side," cries one of the men, heavy-bearded and resolute. The rising river roars loudly as it approaches the larger, crueler rocks downstream. I doubt the lad can hear his elder's advice. This is soon proven, while the men concentrate on driving their long poles into the water and directing their logs through the granite rocks. The younger one makes a miscalculation. He lets his log cluster drift too far towards the bank. It hits one of the roots that extend underwater. The raft swings round perpendicular to the current, then slams directly into a rock as it passes me by. Logs creak, separate and splinter. One of them rises from the water, knocking the boy over. He plunges into the river, hitting his head on one of the logs as he falls. I stand on my hind legs, craning to see the men, but they are too far downstream. One of them gazes back towards me, seeing nothing amiss. They're not to blame. The current does what it will, or such is beaver lore, at least. Even if the men noticed the boy falling, there would be little they could do to reach him in these rain-swollen torrents. I make a split-second and no doubt foolish decision, slipping off my balcony and into the tumult. I duck under the chaotic tangle of logs as they spin and clatter through the rapids, then emerge between 2 that have drifted into the shallows near my stream. There! A bare foot and shin emerge between maple trunks. I try to get purchase on the boy's clothing, but it rips through like wet leaves. I bite down on his ankle instead and swim frantically backwards, making little headway until he slowly emerges from the eddy. Now the current catches and rotates him, slamming his upper body into the side of my lodge. That seems to wake him up and he turns to face me. I release him and duck back under the water, re-emerging downstream to watch from the safety of some ferns. The boy scrambles onto my veranda, kneeling to cough up river water and fragments of bark. He rubs the side of his head, and the trauma of his near drowning seems to hit him, suddenly, freezing him in place like a wood carving. He looks down at his torn trouser leg and bleeding shin, where my teeth have left deep marks. Then he glances around him, fortunately missing my hiding place. He rises unsteadily to his feet, cursing as he raises a hand to squint against the sunlight and watch his logs scattering themselves downstream. There might be one or two left behind for me to work on. I can't help but think I could strengthen the foundations. The boy's shoulders slump. He must realise he has a long walk along the trail down to Lady Falls, where there's a small settlement. He'll be the butt of many logger jokes, I fear. He begins to pick his way through the trees, and I slide into the water and follow him up the stream. Soon he reaches the path and the maple I've set a claim to. He stops to run his fingers around the wound my incisors have made. The boy gives the trunk 3 exploratory pushes, and it wobbles, but won't fall. He looks around him, briefly catching my eye before I duck under the water once again. "Thank you, Mr. Beaver," I think I hear him shout, although it's hard to make out from the depths. Seconds later, I emerge from my hidden entrance into the middle of my lodge and shake water from my fur. "That's barren, Beaver," I jest, to nobody but myself. And that's the end of that. So if you enjoyed that, and if you're enjoying the channel generally, tell people, share it on social media. Almost nobody does, but it'd be good if you did. And you could like this video, and you could even leave a comment. I have no idea who's watching because nobody ever tells me, but if you leave a comment, then I'll know. Okay, hopefully see you again soon. Bye.